7 with Steve, Cat, Ryan, Amanda, and Eric. And the voice of NEW, Vince Berry. Hitting all the topics like a clothesline flurry. Turn up your speakers and hear them out. You can listen from your car, even on your couch. They too raw, who NXT? Handing out Smackdowns, follow on IG. Plus, it's sponsored by Tag Me a Date. Go to YouTube and sub now for every update. It's all wrestling here. No safe space, now listen in. Time to hear from some of the greats.
Oh, well.
Kat did make a good point, after everything that we were talking about, although we did get sidetracked for quite some time last week. All in a good way, I must say. But we didn't talk about the what is turning out to be a pretty decent storyline on SmackDown with the whole Mandy, Sonya, Heavy Machinery, and Ziggler. So we should tackle that at some point. But Vince, I know this is your go for.
Whatever. You're right. She was right though.
Yeah.
So this is the War Report, brought to you by TagMeADate.com, the first and only dating site exclusively for fans of professional wrestling. Currently undergoing a site redesign. Stay tuned to our social media at TagMeADate for updates for that and about our
the world is
podcast.
going through a redesign too.
Yeah, I was going to say the world is going to change. And maybe we should really the redesign might help because we could potentially, I've seen that sporting events and wrestling shows might not have audiences until the end of this year, or some people are saying it might not be until 2022. And that sounds awful.
2022.
Yeah, that's a long ass time.
That's a long time.
So maybe online things will be, like this. I know online dating is already big, but I mean, this could be another opportunity if we,
Virtual
when we
Zoom.
get back online. Yeah, exactly. You get on Zoom or SciTube or something, and you get in a little chat room and all watch the same show,
SciTube
wrestling show at the
sounds
same
dirty.
time. I know it does, but it's like I think Sci is like a Russian thing, but it's like basically.
Sigh.
Yeah, CY. So basically, what happens is,
Side.
somebody sets up a room, and then they'll put a list of like either a live Twitch stream or YouTube videos, or they make like a playlist. But as soon as you hit play, you're caught up to what everybody else in the chat is watching. So it's like a real time thing. It's not if you start the playlist, you start back at number 1. If there are 3 videos in, you go to the 3rd video. So like you can chat live as it's happening. You're all watching the same thing at the same time.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So, but anyway, I think that's something where like you meet people online. Where do you do that? You do it social media. You do that on dating sites, and then you've got to do something aside from just sitting in your house like we've been doing. So maybe that's the next thing is like getting on a Zoom chat and like you both turn on the same pay-per-view or something.
Yeah.
And, that's the new hangout, unfortunately, until things become normal, whenever they may become normal. Speaking of which, the WWE has been determined to be essential workers.
Think about that for a second. So they're being put in a category of, our wonderful doctors and nurses and our police officers and our fire department and pharmacies and supermarkets and restaurants.
Oh, I know.
Wrestling is essential. Only Vince McMahon could get that done. It's amazing to me.
I don't understand how that happened either.
I really feel like this is a perfect opportunity to just take a break and just really sit down and reevaluate everything and start fresh. You know what I mean? It's a perfect opportunity to hit the reset button. I mean, listen, I've been a diehard wrestling fan all my life. I can't imagine a Monday night without Raw, or in this case, Friday without SmackDown or without NXT. But then I look at it and I say, safety first, man. I mean, this is no joke. Right. It needs to be taken seriously, and the product has been subpar. And at the end of the day, they're doing the absolute best they can under the circumstances. I give them all the credit in the world. It just is very difficult for it to come off and really hit the way it does without a crowd. I say it every week. I will continue to say it. And I think that, we still have AEW, which for whatever reason, without a crowd, I've gotten more into the program than I have with Raw. It doesn't stop me from watching it. I'm a fan, so I will always watch. But at the same time, the crowd makes a difference. For whatever reason, though, AEW is able to draw me in without. I can't really explain why, because at first it was kind of easy, right? Because they were doing a lot of things that WWE was doing poorly the right way.
Right. Yeah.
But now WWE has kind of changed that, and they are doing things more the right way. So I can't really...
It's still their way of doing things. You know what I mean? Like, if the crowd was there or the crowd wasn't there, that main event segment on Raw with Seth Rollins coming in happens the exact same way. The match between Asuka and Ruby Riott, it happens the exact same way. There's no change to it. They don't acknowledge the audience. They still haven't even, like, they call it everything but a virus, the current situation or whatever. They don't even say anything like that. They, like, talk all around it. It's like everyone else in the world, the news, the social media, everybody's acknowledging what it is. They're not acknowledging what it is and kind of running business as usual instead of saying, hey, this isn't really business as usual. We acknowledge that, but this is what we can do with what we're afforded.
Yeah.
Because, like, a couple weeks ago, when they announced that Braun Strowman was taking over for Roman Reigns, Triple H did an interview with ESPN. He said, you guys got to give it a chance. You got to listen. You got to watch. We're going to have a dynamic, creative way of getting this Braun Strowman Goldberg match to happen. Usually when you say that, that means you have a strategy or a plan or something. So basically what happened was there was no creative, dynamic storyline. There was no story. There was zero storyline. There was no attempt to explain where Roman Reigns went, because you would have to acknowledge leukemia. You'd have to acknowledge coronavirus. You'd have to acknowledge all this stuff they don't want to talk about.
Yeah.
And you'd have to write a story for Braun and Goldberg. And it would be, all it has to do is a quick 2-minute thing. It looks like Roman Reigns is in the back of a limousine. Braun Strowman comes over and flips the limousine on its roof, comes into the Smackdown stadium and says, I got rid of Roman Reigns. That means I'm next. And then Goldberg goes, rah! And then that's it. Like, you got a story.
I still wasn't finished with you.
Right, yeah. That's all you got to do. That's continuity. It calls back to, and listen, that was something I just came up with off the top of my head that took 30 seconds to think of. That's all they needed to do was come up with, Roman was in an airplane and got stuck in the bathroom and they couldn't get the door unlocked in time. So Braun Strowman's fighting instead. Like, give me something. Give me something. But man, since you've been away for so long, and I
welcome back.
First of all, welcome back. Yeah, and Samuel, I want to just see what your like a state of the wrestling business is. How are you feeling with the shows that have occurred, with the empty arenas? Do you think they should still be doing shows? I feel like you haven't, you've got an opinion on whether or not WWE should be essential and whether or not they should be running shows and all that.
Yeah. So the MTR
That's a great response.
I haven't actually minded the empty arenas. I liked that you can hear more of the banter between the wrestlers. But I definitely do not think that they are essential. Yes. And I think it's awful that the WWE somehow got this. I won't be watching WWE from now on if they're going to continue doing live shows. The tape shows I don't mind, because then you can at least control how many people are in the building. You're controlling how many people are on
that is a big difference.
And like the WWE.
Well, I think they're controlling that regardless. I mean, I don't think they're. I don't mean to control.
They showed a clip of that gym and it was fucking packed. They're doing everything that these people, that health officials are saying not to, and you're having thousands and thousands of people dying daily. It's just not right.
And then they're doing PSAs about social distancing, which is funny.
That.
And they packed the commentary table like sardines with 3 people.
Yeah.
And one of them being Jerry Lawler, who's high risk.
Who's in his 70s with a fucking heart problem.
He almost died several times.
Yeah.
Listen, I will say this, though, and I don't know, but I would like to think that Vince is not forcing. Like, I don't think Vince McMahon said to the King, you better be here or else kind of situation.
Right.
I don't know, but I'm
Yeah,
hoping
but-
that
You would
that's
hope
not the
not,
case.
yeah.
I don't think that they're forcing them, but at the same time, it is their jobs, and they think that if they're not going to show up, then
They're not going to get pushed.
They're not going to get pushed. They're not going to go farther. They could be released later on or coming up soon. So it's not like
Can't argue that.
free. But like, what makes them different than every other single sports organization out there?
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
And we've been saying that too. I mean,
how?
if baseball and football and everything's going to stop, basketball, whatever, so
And
should
those
wrestling.
are, those are with much larger rosters and worth,
Yeah.
billions of dollars. So you see them do that, and then even like New Japan Pro Wrestling, they immediately in like early March canceled all their upcoming shows for the entirety of March and like most of April, and then just came along and said, we're not doing May either. So they were ahead of everybody. They were like they closed it down.
And even AEW, they did pre-taped. I think they have enough
Right.
footage to get them through the end of May, I think I read. So
Yeah, I heard months of footage.
right, so they're doing it the right way too, because
Yeah.
they banged it all out in however long while you
Right.
were still allowed, and now they're practicing, the social distancing. I mean, it's important. It's something that has to be done, and we'll see what happens. Vince McMahon has a way of getting away with shit. So,
Oh, I always, always.
so and whether it's right or wrong, we're a panel of diehard wrestling fans who are saying it should take a hiatus. There's nothing wrong with that. But
Yeah, and I agree. I think, listen, as much as I like watching wrestling and like watching new wrestling and want to watch a live program, it loses a lot without the audience, for sure. Some stuff is interesting without an audience. The Matt Hardy thing with Chris Jericho, that was interesting. Despite how people felt about the teleportation, it was still something that was different. The drone flying into the open-air stadium. Like, there are different things that are awesome, but at the same time, it's like, to me, none of this shit matters. Braun Strowman picked up and slammed Goldberg like 4 times, which has never been done before. And like 2 people in the world, being Brock Lesnar and Braun fucking Strowman, are like the only 2 people in the world to get a clean, no interference, no weapons, no managers, no malarkey pinfall on Goldberg in 30 years. In the last 30 years, the only 2 guys I believe to pin Goldberg clean were Brock and Braun. And it didn't matter. There was nobody there to react to it. He gets the world title, and it's like, so what? And even like
but
tomorrow. So what happens if Velveteen Dream wins the match tomorrow, wins the NXT title? So he gets to stand there in front of nobody.
Yeah, I mean,
and
you're
be
excited
champion
for
of
him, but
nothing.
where's it
Yeah.
go? I mean, I'm hearing you, dude. It's it's like I go back and I said what I said about Mania. At the end of the day, I didn't have that goosebump moment. And I can't recall a WrestleMania that I didn't have that at least once, if not multiple times during a show. And I didn't have that in this one. And
Did you guys like the Boneyard match and the Firefly Funhouse match?
so
Those were great.
we dove deep into those last week. I, who am not really into the whole cinematic type of match, I actually did really, really enjoy the Boneyard match. I loved it. Absolutely loved it head to toe. Kat hated it. And then she loved the Firefly Funhouse match, and I'm still on the fence.
Right?
I'm still on the fence. I have seriously gone back and watched it like 6 times, and I'm still kind of on the fence. Like when I
wouldn't
first saw
consider
it,
like match, but I would like a segment. I don't think it was
Yeah,
really
right,
a match.
Yeah.
But I think that was one of my biggest problems with it, is that it's WrestleMania and it wasn't a match. Like, there were
Yeah.
two moves. And
Yeah.
at first, I honestly thought I was hallucinating. Like, I truly,
Yeah, we all did.
like, I said it last week, I thought, like, Stacy slipped something in my drink. Because I was just so confused, so it took away from the match. So I had to watch it a second time. And then the second time, I kind of caught everything that I had missed, and I was like, okay, I get it. And I watched it again and again and again, and it's like, I totally get it, and I appreciate the way it was done because it was so unique and so different. I'm just very much on the fence of whether or not I would want to see that again. And from what I'm understanding, there's a lot of people that felt that way, and there's odds that we're never going to see this type of a match again.
No.
No, and if it was, like, here's the thing. If that was a segment that aired on SmackDown before WrestleMania, the Firefly Funhouse thing, be great. That's a great segment to have on SmackDown to sell your pay-per-view and create some intrigue. But if that's the blow-off and John Cena's way of putting over Bray Wyatt like he should have done at WrestleMania 30, 6 years later or 7 years later, whatever it is now, the way that he puts him over is in a fake match where he took 2 bumps and got pinned, and then the referee was the same fucking guy, only one was wearing a mask and one was so it's obviously like a special effect or something hinky. It's not a real. What I'm saying is, if you want to put, I think I said this last week, if you're gonna put somebody over, you put them over in a real match, and that just didn't feel like the John Cena putting someone over and that's it. I'm going out on my back. I'm retired.
See,
thing.
you're right, and I agree with you. What I will say is, though, because of the circumstances and what was going on, I actually feel it was the right move to do it at WrestleMania, even only because
situation.
Well, you were able to get more creative with the idea of the Firefly Funhouse. They did a lot of stuff they would not have been able to do if it was a live match. So,
yes,
it's kind of. It's tough because I'm with you. To me, it just wasn't a wrestling match, and it looks like Amanda agrees. But Kat loved it, and that was my thing. I'm like,
well, I'm not saying it
she
wasn't.
hates
I loved it,
Yeah.
but it just wasn't a match.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, and I don't know that I'm even there yet to say I loved it, but I appreciate it. But I was just very surprised because Kat hated the Boneyard but loved the Firefly. So she was very, very outspoken about that. But yeah, so we all had pretty much mixed opinions.
I think the main takeaway, though, from WrestleMania is that it ended up being better than we all thought it would be.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They did the best they could.
What they did under the circumstances,
It sucks that they were even in the situation because it was really shaping out to be one hell of a WrestleMania.
I know, right?
So it just sucks. It's this fucking virus, man. Fucked everything up.
Like Drew getting this big moment. That
felt. And I was like, that's cool and all. Like, there was a couple things that fucked up, and we'll get into what happened this week as well, by what I'm going to say. So, they had WrestleMania pre-taped in front of no audience. Drew wins, and he does his big pose. There's no pyro. There's no nothing. He poses to an audience of nobody. He's the champion of the empty arena, and they end WrestleMania on that, which is fine. It's a big, good moment. It just,
That's why he had to break the fourth wall and talk to the camera.
Yes, which is good that he thought to do that. But then, the next night on Monday, they go, no, guess what? Brock Lesnar, Drew McIntyre wasn't the main event of WrestleMania. The real main event of WrestleMania, which you're going to get tonight, is Big Show versus Drew McIntyre.
Out of
And
nowhere.
somebody thought that, and again, this is the way that you take a new, fresh babyface that people are rooting for and absolutely fucking destroy him before he even gets a chance. The first feud is with the Big Show, who had to do some kind of flippy-floppy turn to get where he was. Because I'm pretty sure if a guy has a new Netflix show, you want him to be a babyface. You don't want him to be a heel. But anyway, they got him on TV. And then the next step is to have him feud with Seth Rollins. Why not just, they put him in the fucking death spot? It's been proven that the Seth Rollins thing was great for a little while. He's good for stretches, and then you need to cool him off. The fact that he's even in the mix right now, especially since he lost.
Well,
He
see, that's
lost
what
at
I was gonna
WrestleMania.
say. Like,
that's the big problem.
like,
But it's also Seth Rollins to me is just like I could give a fuck about Seth Rollins feuding with Drew McIntyre. I don't want to just see I'm a former champion. I want to hold the title. Like I want something different for Drew McIntyre.
See,
like this match with Andrade was fine. But
right.
you know what I mean? Like give me something new.
I 100% agree with you. I was going to say the same thing. Like, what did Seth Rollins do in the last 2 months to grant him automatically the number one contender? You know, it made no sense to me. And
didn't he just lose to Kevin Owens too?
Yeah, he lost.
Well, that's what we're saying. He hasn't been winning. So it's like, how is your ranking going up if you haven't been winning matches? You know, and then the whole Big Show thing. You know, I go back and I watch that whole fucking scenario. And I sit there and I'm like, we know Brock Lesnar can go, right?
Yeah.
We know Drew McIntyre can go. Why wouldn't you have flipped that? Why wouldn't you have had him go the length with Brock Lesnar and make it an actual battle and become victorious and then have Big Show come out and do this fucking stupid thing and have that only go 5 minutes? Because you don't need more than that. It's not like you were getting Big Show over. It's not like he was winning. It just didn't make sense to me. So those are my issues with those two. But I am in agreement with you. Rollins, to me, you know, Aleister Black right now has been destroying the roster and, you know, the no-names forever. You know, he's in line more so than Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins hasn't won anything. So I don't know. And I just hope this doesn't mean it's going to be a quick little month run for Drew and then he's going to drop it to Rollins already.
You know,
I think it's going to be a short program and move on.
Yeah, I think Rollins has to
get Rollins out of the way. Maybe
he has to get out. He has to lose.
How is he in the way? Like I don't understand.
Right, I know.
Well, that's the thing. Ridiculous. He should have never been in the way in the first place.
Like McIntyre Owens would be very interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, except
heel face whatever. It doesn't, you know.
Yeah, I don't know. Just a lot of things just aren't making sense right now.
Yeah, I know, right? It's like it is because we're in such a weird, like you have to take everything a little bit of a grain of salt. We're in unprecedented times.
Right.
You know, the last time we went through something like this, it was like the plague and you know, people were so bored they invented calculus, or like after the plague was over, there was the great renaissance of art and creativity and music and theater. So like we're in a, you know, what's supposedly a creative downtime, or a time where people are kind of not focused on the entertainment medium, and then when things start to get back to normal, they're gonna go. The assumption is that people are gonna go more all out, like the first live show back for WWE or AEW or shit American Idol, anybody.
Gonna be live concerts, forget
big show. It's gonna be a big deal. I'm not talking about the big show. I'm talking about it's just gonna be a big, like it's going to be a WrestleMania like atmosphere when people can actually get back to live wrestling. When that's gonna be, we don't. Now the other problem, we don't know. We just don't know.
Speaking of Big Show, who has seen the Big Show?
I saw a couple episodes.
I've been watching it with my daughter. She absolutely loves it. I'm pretty entertained.
I liked it.
I think it's definitely, you know, it's definitely for kids.
Oh yeah,
which isn't a bad thing. It's just you acknowledge it's definitely written with like the Disney Channel style kind of stuff in mind. It's
correct.
It's not as if, you know, the language that they use and the way they talk is more. It's not as like complicated as like a Friends or a How I Met Your Mother or whatever.
Right.
It's definitely more of like a Hannah Montana style, simple stories.
But Big Show himself, he's always had like this dynamic personality to be able to do the different things. That
for sure.
Maintain in the wrestling business for so long. Like I keep
that's why he can turn. That's why he can turn. So
yeah, like I keep going back to Backlash 2000 when he came out as Hogan. That was awesome.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, then when he did the
Shokishi or the big.
Yep. I was just gonna say when he dressed in like the sumo stuff. Oh my god. and that's the thing. He actually is a good actor. I mean, the first acting gig he ever got was Captain Insano.
That's right, Waterboy.
The Water Boy. And that was
I
that
am 31 years old.
Was that Tony Schiavone? Who was the guy next to him?
No, it was some random dude.
Oh, it was just a random guy. It wasn't a wrestling guy. Okay.
But they both had a good laugh at Waterboy's expense.
Oh, he loved water. Yeah.
His show laughing is awesome.
Fucking great. Yeah, he just laughed.
Shit, he was the
that
Giant still
savage.
then, right?
Right. Yeah, I think he was definitely still a Giant because that was WCW times. For sure. What notable aside from the main event segment? I suppose Jerry Lawler calling.
What happened? I missed whatever that bullshit controversy is
Akira
now.
Tozawa didn't do a moonsault. He did some other move. Somebody will correct me, I'm sure. But Jerry Lawler called it a ramen noodle moonsault. And
Are we seriously having an issue?
cares? I
That's
just
fucking
don't-
hilarious.
People care. Can I tell you, people care? I've seen people bitching online about
Really?
Ryan. I've seen people in Facebook groups about wrestling not like
Ah,
that.
there's so many other things
gives
to
a
take
shit? And Reddit.
seriously. We're talking
And-
about fucking
yeah.
wrestling.
Yeah, we're talking.
And there's
about-
more important
yeah.
things in the world, clearly, right now than that.
I was just gonna say the whole world is fucking falling apart, and we're splitting hairs about somebody calling a wrestling move a ramen noodle moonsault. Like, is that really what we're
Unbelievable.
fighting?
It-
Is that what
it's-
we're fighting for now?
It's just always something, man. It's always something. Amanda, what do you think? Is that like?
It's people just care too much. I mean, he could have said a bunch of other things to call that moonsault, but
Oh yeah, for sure.
people just
He was
care.
trying to be funny. The guy's 70 fucking years old.
Yeah, and I
You
saw
know-
that somebody goes, "Oh, what he said was racist," and somebody said, "No, it wasn't racist. It was a joke. Whether or not you liked his joke or you thought it was a good joke, that's your opinion on
That's
it."
it. You don't like a joke, it's automatically racist
was-
because you don't like the joke.
Right. And I
Yeah.
understand if he was he's attempting a joke and it didn't land the way he intended it to land, or whatever the case may be. To just assume, oh, this person is, you just go, oh, he's a racist. Well, because he's old, he's from the South, he said ramen noodle, whatever. Oh, he's a racist. Well, okay. That's really what you want to think, but that, I'd like to think people would in general think a little more critically than that, but I guess not.
I hate people. I
I know.
really do.
And the only other notable thing I can think of is Nia Jax beating Kairi Sane, which people were also very, very upset about.
Why are we upset about this? Nia Jax is a beast compared to Kairi Sane.
And plus, she just returned. She's got to go over.
Yeah, seriously.
Right, but it's it's a matter. It's not so much that kind of thinking, which is critical thinking that makes sense. It's people that see Nia and then see Asuka, and they just do the wrestling math in their head, and they go, "Oh well, Kairi Sane is better than Nia Jax, and therefore she should win the match."
Nia
And
Jax
therefore, yeah.
is like triple the size. I'm not even talking weight, just overall size. Like, it's not believable for Kairi Sane to go over in the first place. Like,
I understand the truth. I also say, I acknowledge she is a much better wrestler.
she is a better wrestler, but fucking A.
Yeah, I know.
It's so
But people were real mad. Those are the two things that people were real mad. Excuse me, mad about last night.
Okay, well, I want to go into something that I want to praise WWE for.
Ooh, that's different.
You don't hear that every day.
And coming from me especially, I want to acknowledge that, and I was thinking this the whole time when they were leading up to this main event last night.
Uh-huh.
I kept thinking, I wonder if they're going to mention that Andrade beat Drew for the NXT championship. And when they mentioned it on commentary, I was ecstatic because continuity. You know how much I love continuity. It makes a lot of sense. It builds Andrade a little better to I beat you once,
Yeah, but I feel like they typically do go back and do that. Like, what was giving you the impression that they may not, relive that or put it out there?
I don't know. They don't mention as much about NXT stuff that happened.
Well, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, a lot of times they well now because they've officially made it a third brand, maybe now this shit counts.
But it
like,
just made so much sense, and it made me so happy. I know it's a very small thing.
no, but
Hey, it's the
really
little
helpful.
things that, you know,
Yes.
Yeah,
especially
because
now.
a lot of time they treated, basically they'll treat NXT like it didn't count, or it was developmental, so it doesn't count, or it was the minor leagues. And then when they see fit, like Asuka's undefeated streak or whatever, they'll bring that up. But in general, you're right. When they if somebody comes up from NXT, there's usually not a lot.
They've been much better with the NXT stuff in
right, and I think that, like I said,
live.
They're trying to make to get over the perception that NXT is a developmental brand and trying to get people used to the idea that it is now the third brand. I still don't know how that's going to work because they just do the performance. Now everybody's doing the performance center. The comparison between Raw and SmackDown and NXT is that NXT's in front of 500 people at Full Sail. They tore this little loop in Florida, and then people who are training at the Performance Center who aren't ready to be on TV, their next stop isn't Raw or SmackDown. If you go from the Performance Center, you go Performance Center to NXT, and then when you're ready, you move to Raw or SmackDown. So even if it's considered a third brand and a real world title and a real women's world championship and all that, you're still left with, but you get called. It still looks like you get called up from NXT to Raw or SmackDown, no matter what. Now it still looks like it's a call up, if that makes sense. Like it still doesn't feel, only because these brands have been around for so long, they're so established. It just feels like it's not as NXT is not as doesn't have the legacy of like a Raw or a SmackDown as in longevity. So it still feels like it's a developmental brand.
Well, look what so speaking of NXT, they did do finally like the Ciampa Gargano thing, okay, so Triple H says, okay, this is the last time and then that's it. But the way it happened with Candice turning, there's no, well, not really turning, but she low blowed and,
Yeah, that was
like that kid, they open-ended it for it to continue, even though they said it was.
This is the final.
So
right,
wait, I missed NXT last
really
week. I haven't seen it yet. It's on my list for tomorrow. So Candice turned on her husband?
No, well, it was a double swerve thing. So she comes out during the match. She's like, "Stop it, guys! This is ridiculous," and they've been beating the piss out of each other. And so, fine, I'll end it. So then she kicks her husband in the balls, and then leaves. He comes back, and he goes down. Johnny goes down.
Obvious.
Does the same thing to Ciampa, but Gargano took the thing out of his crotch.
He had a metal jockstrap cup thing.
So he basically did what AJ should have done a year or two ago.
Right. It would wear the cup.
So she told him ahead of time, or how did he know?
They planned ahead of time for him to wear the cup.
So she's turning on her husband.
No, she turned. It looked like she turned on him, but she really didn't.
Oh,
I
get it.
Then she blasts Tommaso, and then Tommaso loses.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it reminds me of when Bret Hart got speared by Goldberg, and then he takes that, and he had that plate he was wearing, that metal plate.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely or when
cool.
Chyna was doing all the low blows, and then Billy Gunn had the jockstrap, the cup. Yeah, that was a thing too. It wasn't bad. You're right.
But in front of no crowd, it's like a whimper.
Yes, that's that no crowd, and because it would have definitely meant more for her to turn in front of a crowd and all that. But also, you're right. It's kind of open ended. It didn't feel like a definitive ending. Unlike that one where it was the last man standing, and Gargano hit Tommaso. But Gargano was down, and Tommaso was being held up because he fell off the stage, and he was kind of still standing. That felt kind of like an end. That felt like an ending, but also did leave it open-ended for them to go back to it. This one still just feels like, there's more to be told.
Well, because the thing is, this was supposed to end last year at WrestleMania.
Yes.
Then Ciampa got injured.
It would have been better to end it back then instead of, you have all this gap in time, and then they come back, and instead of it being babyface Johnny Gargano gets his revenge against heel Tommaso, it's babyface Tommaso loses the heel Ciampa, or babyface Tommaso loses the heel Gargano, and rather than Gargano being like the ultimate babyface, he's now like, you know, he's a heel, which I don't know. I like usually I sound as somebody who's not a big guy myself. I watch wrestling to watch fucking larger than life people wrestle, and 5 foot tall Johnny Gargano as a heel doesn't do anything for me. Like, it's just not intimidating. It's not like, oh, look at the heat this stud is gonna get. It's like, man, you're 5'2". You should be an underdog for like the rest of your life. I don't know. That's just me though. That's my bias towards 80s wrestling.
I get that though.
Like I just he doesn't see the whole heel turn for Johnny Gargano just doesn't it doesn't really stick with for me. I just don't get I don't get it. He's him and his wife and they're cute and they
especially because he had, if you really look at it, he had every right to did Ciampa.
Right, exactly. He there was no if he comes back and attacks Tommaso, it's all in how they present it on whether or not he's a heel, because it could still be he's returning to avenge himself and not that he's out for revenge. It's the difference between being like, you know, the Sith or the Jedi. Are you going to be Anakin Skywalker and you're going to kill all the younglings, or are you going to be, you know, Mace Windu and try and save the Republic? I don't know. It's different. It's, you know, and once more, this fucking virus just threw a wrench in everything. So whatever the actual plan was, we'll never know.
Yeah,
we'll never know what the actual match was supposed to be between those guys, or the actual match between any of those guys. You know what they were actually supposed to be, or those segments that were like stunt shows. We don't know what that would have been in the ring. It might not have been as good. Maybe it would. But here we are in the middle of all of this. AEW, so here's something for you, just kind of change direction a little. AEW is they've pre-taped all this, of course, but they're having a tournament for the TNT Championship, which is interesting because the channel is TNT.
Because that's not pandering towards the network.
Right. The show is Dynamite.
It's basically
TNT,
a TV title. That's,
right, it's a TV title, but they wanted to call it something different. But it does tie in because the channel's TNT and the show is Dynamite, so it's still like...
Oh, absolutely. And plus they're getting a mid-card title, which is great.
Yeah. So, but they're doing the tournament. They've already pretty much pre-taped the tournament. And they're going to broadcast over the next several weeks. Is this the same thing where somebody's going to win a title and there's nobody there to celebrate it or
Probably.
to boo it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I know there's no real way to stretch the finals out for a tournament like that when there's only 8 guys in it. But, you know, you almost wish you could stretch it out and have the final at a pay-per-view or something. But again, we don't know when those next big pay-per-views are going to come. I'm pretty sure their pay-per-view in May has already been canceled by the casino.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, man. I like the idea. I like that they're getting a secondary title. I just, again, with all this going on, there's no good time. It's just, it's timing. I guess there really isn't.
They're also doing a tournament to make an interim cruiserweight champion because Jordan Devlin is stuck in UK.
Yes.
But I don't I know UFC does this a lot, but I'm not a champion. So you're basically winning a tournament for really nothing.
To get a match with the current champion,
yeah, it's like I don't.
And I get it. Even in UFC, the thing is, UFC had it and used it to a certain extent, and then wore it out by every time somebody was injured or refused to take a fight or whatever, they would just make an interim champion, and then they had that interim champion do title fences. But then when the other guy came back, they'd have title. It was so stupid, and then they'd eventually get to a unification match. But there's a lot of time.
Yeah, like I'd almost rather have it either take the belt off him,
right? Strip him
that
of
gives
the title,
him
make him
gives him like more like heat to want it back because like they took it from me. You know, it's not fair.
Yep.
And come back to it later down the line, or have him defend it in NXT UK for a bit.
Right. Well, I don't know how. I really don't know what the situation is like in the UK. I don't even know if they could get people together.
Well, Pete Dunne is there, and he's one half of the NXT Tag Team Champion.
Any update on Rhea Ripley and her situation?
So she's still in the U.S. That doesn't tell you whether or not her visa's already expired, because as of right now, you really can't do much about it. It's not like you can deport somebody. They can't go back to Australia. There's no planes going to Australia. You can't.
True.
You're not legally allowed to internationally travel at this point. So it's very possible. Hi, Kat. It's very possible that Kat's probably been here for 10 minutes and I just haven't looked at the computer.
No, I just got here, just finished playing bingo with a bunch of
perfect.
kindergartners.
Oh my
boy.
God.
God help me.
You didn't shoot yourself. Congratulations.
Well,
Wow.
I went from that torture, so now I'm like, I need to decompress. So
Yeah,
I'm gonna go
definitely
talk
need to
with my
decompress.
buds.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you're here. Where was I? I don't even know what I was talking about.
Rhea Ripley, deportation.
So you can't deport her because there's nowhere to deport her to because you can't fly. And also, I don't think she could go and contest the deportation order because there's not a court or a probate or whatever open to do that. So, it's very possible that her visa is expired. It's just that there's nothing you can do about that until the situation, changes. So the assumption that we had was that, her visa is expiring and maybe that's why they took the title off her. Isn't necessarily true because she's still here. But the speculation that they took it off of her and gave it to Charlotte to try and boost NXT during this time, I mean, I think that's got legs. I think.
Well, listen, that's possible because NXT is what's directly up against AEW, so
Right.
it makes
I
sense.
feel like she was. I think no matter what, I feel like Charlotte was winning that match at WrestleMania. I don't. Pandemic, no pandemic. I feel like to them the bottom dollar decision was going to be Charlotte all day. Like that, they just they've already hitched their wagon to her. So I didn't think that Rhea was going over, unfortunately. And I also thought it had something to do with ratings. I thought that perhaps, if with the way that things have been going with AEW, Dynamite, and NXT, I just assumed WWE was putting Charlotte out on NXT to try and bump some numbers.
I mean, if that's the case, though, too, that's really shitty for Rhea Ripley, though.
Oh
'cause
yeah,
they
really
did all this
give her a
build
chance.
up and all this, and then she finally,
that she finally getting the title off of Shayna, after Shayna's ridiculously long run.
Right. I think what we realize now is that it was a cool decision at the time to have Rhea Ripley win that match. I feel like maybe Candice or Io or Ember, somebody with an established feud with Shayna should have been the one to knock her off and take the title finally after scraping and clawing instead of this new person. And now it's like, hey, she was in UK, which nobody really watches, but now she's here. She's important. And you understood that she was important because she won the title and she beat Shayna, but she's still fairly unknown to most general wrestling fans. So I feel like that was the disadvantage they put her at. She's important because she has a title, but now that she has a title, other people who are more popular or longer tenured or whatever, Charlotte is a bigger star, regardless of how we feel about her work or the feuds that they put her in, the way they book her. She's a good athlete, and she can work. She can do her business here, and she's a big star. So
What they did with Rhea, like that whole thing you just set up. I mean, they're probably going to rinse and repeat and do the same thing with Toni Storm.
Right, it's somebody's going to come in.
Time.
Right, whether it's Toni Storm or somebody else, they're going to
or Piper Niven or someone.
Right, I feel like what's going to happen is again, Charlotte is going to run through, and I'm glad Bianca's on Raw now because that would just be another loss for Bianca to take that she doesn't.
I would have liked to see that match, though. I think.
I definitely would have. I would
more
like to
so
see
than
it,
what we saw. Because
I would like to see it in a position where Charlotte puts her over. Even if it's a non-title match and she puts her over, and that means that by pinning the champion in a non-title match, she gets a title match, and then Charlotte wins. At least kind of she already got a pin on Charlotte and she kind of looked good. I don't know. I'm hoping they do this the right way instead of, oh look, Charlotte is in NXT. She's a bigger superstar than literally every other woman on the roster. Therefore, she's going to beat everybody. And then somebody's going to get a fluky roll-up win on her or cash in Money in the Bank, and that's going to be it. That's what I don't want going down because I don't want her to just
and
go
so
to
they
NXT and beat everybody.
So they had this 6-woman ladder match for the number one contendership for the title, NXT Women's title. Io wins it, but aren't they both heels? And then I don't know. It's a little weird,
right? Because
I almost hate that she's going to be Charlotte's first opponent.
Unless they turn her back baby face. I don't know. I really don't know. It's such a.
I mean, we know Chelsea Green wasn't going to win it. Yeah.
Yes. Well, yes.
And Mia Yim's already
part of
had
it-
her shots. And,
Right. And that's the other thing is that, like, now you're back to the point where, like, because Shayna had such a lengthy title run, she beat a lot of people. Now, if Charlotte goes on another long run, those same people are going to get beat again, and it's not going to do them any favors. I don't know. We're speculating. That's what we're paid to do is speculate. We're not paid, but you know what I mean.
We're paid?
Yeah, I know, right?
Who got a paycheck?
But you know what I'm saying? Like, we're here to speculate, and it could, they could surprise us. But it just seems like, based on the evidence that we've had from their prior performance,
Our paycheck is the Divas belt that Steve's getting shipped to him.
that's right. Ryan still has to ship the Divas belt to Steve, and he gets to keep. He never even mailed the big belt out for us the other years. I don't care. I still won last year. I'm happy with that. I didn't need a belt to carry around. I've got my belt. But
Yeah, but that picture with Steve is going to be classic.
oh,
Where's the eject button?
Didn't
You
different
can kick
people
me out of
win
this
here?
call anytime you want, darling.
she'll just keep coming back.
Damn links.
But yeah, it's so hard.
I don't know.
to-
I still think Jeff Hardy's title is even uglier.
Oh God, the fish title.
A fish title.
It was supposed to be his face, but it just looked like an underwater, like a sea monster.
Oh, it was stupid. I remember
That was
that.
bad, yeah. Amanda, I just have to say, I am so happy to see you, sweetheart.
I see.
I missed you. I missed being the only girl around here.
I know, right? Like, that was such a weird. We're glad to have you back.
Thanks. I'm glad to be back.
Now I got someone to rank on the Bellas with. Yay!
Well, we all do that.
I know we're bad. We're bad.
Has anybody watched that yet?
What?
Total Bellas?
No.
No.
Oh.
Is it new season now? Or?
Yeah, it's like on the third episode now or whatever, but I don't know if anybody, like, I know nobody watches Dancing with the Stars. I was the only one that watched it, but because of the John Cena, Nikki Bella, like, affair, Artem got fired from Dancing with the Stars.
Damn.
Oh really?
Oh, really?
so-
I didn't know
I
that.
didn't know that.
So I didn't know it either until I watched the episode last week, but he's now had to move in with Nikki because he literally had, like, zilch.
Holy Moses!
Now I kind of want to watch it.
They kicked him off the show because it's not it's a family show and that was not family oriented.
But they weren't together during that.
Apparently they were, according to what Dancing with the Stars was saying, that they saw them.
Wow.
So like they developed this thing while
So she was
dating
cheating
Cena?
on John Cena, basically.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's what Dancing with the Stars is taking as their perspective of what happened. So they released.
Didn't she
articles
do the same
about-
thing to Dolph Ziggler when she got with Cena?
Look at Dancing with the Stars turning into fucking TMZ.
Exactly. I was like, wait a minute, what? I missed all of this. I was like, okay, now I kind of have to watch.
I
Because
might actually go watch this fucking show now. I'm fascinated.
That's
He
funny that you
moved
guys are gonna do
in
that.
with Nikki because they fired him from the show after being on the show for 10 years.
Wow.
Oh my God! Yeah, he was on.
Wow.
I didn't realize he was on there for that long. That's
At the end of
crazy.
the day, they're adults. It's fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
Like,
But the first season
Right.
that Artem started was the year Chris Jericho was on. So it was 10 years ago.
Wow. But that's just funny that they Dancing with the Stars knew something that nobody else knew, and they kept the lid on it until like this TV show. Like you would think that it would have came out months ago. Oh, Dancing with the Stars fired this
Yeah.
guy specifically for.
Unless it didn't come out because it was on the TV show.
That's true too. Ryan Seacrest probably paid for that not to come out.
Yeah.
That's a good point. See, that's why I need my girl here.
look at this fucking drama over Total Bellas. Holy shit.
Yeah, it was actually good. When do I ever want to watch Total Bellas? I never want to watch it. And I just happened to be flicking channels because I know I'm going to gross Steve out when I say this. It came on after Dr. Pimple Popper. So.
That fucking show.
And I'm like, all right, I'll listen to this. And in the first 5 minutes, she's talking about how he got fired because of her. I was like, what?
Well, it's better than Cena's stupid house rules, so we don't have to deal with that anymore.
Oh my God, that was the most annoying thing ever.
Deke Stokes.
Wow.
And now this week, apparently, Kathy Laurinaitis is about to flip her wig because the girls are going to go see their dad in Mexicali. And like, apparently they haven't talked to their dad like in years. So
like 6 years or something.
Yeah, so Kathy Laurinaitis is like pulling like a Kim Kardashian, how pissed off she got.
Wow.
I still can't believe they haven't gotten a cameo from Uncle Animal.
Uncle.
You know?
No,
That's true.
I don't watch this show, but if there was a point where Johnny Ace was trying to convince the Bellas not to go to Mexico, I might watch that. No, there's a cartel down there, and they'll kidnap you, and they'll chainsaw your head off.
He is in this week's episode. I do know that because I saw the two because in the preview she's sitting next to him and he's got that constipated look on his face like he always does.
Seriously, they're missing the boat if they don't bring in Road Warrior Animal for at least one cameo.
Oh, I'd love to see him give a doomsday device to one of them before they were pregnant, but you know.
You didn't want to. I wish
I've
you
never
died
seen
in
them
the
interact
womb.
as brothers, though. Like, has anybody seen that? I've never seen them.
What's that?
interact as brothers. Johnny Ace and Animal.
Like, physically looking like each other? No,
No, any interaction between
any
the two of them, even
interaction,
acknowledging in the wrestling world that they're brothers.
Well, no, because I think it's one of those things where like Edge and Christian look more like brothers than Johnny Ace and Animal do. And maybe it's just the fact that one guy wore face paint and a fucking mohawk for the or whatever, shaved his head down the middle and had these two.
Like I feel like a lot of people didn't even know until like CM Punk brought it up.
I think if you knew Laurinaitis, you'd probably figure it out. But yeah, if you were just a regular watcher, you probably didn't quite figure that one out.
Yeah, but growing up, how many last names did we really know?
You didn't know until the internet came around. You tried.
Like, you knew who Terry Bollea was. That was about it.
When we were 8 years old, we didn't know all that.
We didn't know what their real names were.
For sure.
I was like, wait a minute. Randy Savage's last name is Popo? What did you just say?
Right, and people only gave a shit about Johnny Ace Laurinaitis after he got into that position with WWE because all he did was hire supermodels rather than trained wrestlers. Like that was his thing. He would just go to like the Hawaiian Tropics modeling agency and like get those girls.
And as far as his wrestling career, he actually did much better in Japan than in America.
Him and Bart Gunn were.
Oh man, Bart Gunn!
Oh my God!
They were all.
Gotta talk about Bart Gunn.
Yes, let's do that for the last few minutes of the show. So Bart Gunn and Johnny Ace were all Japan Pro Wrestling Tag Team Champions after Bart was released from the WWF. So Bart did okay in Japan. He didn't have like a super duper career anywhere, really, unfortunately. And yeah, if you see that Dark Side of the Ring that broadcast last week,
it was a great episode.
That was a good freaking episode.
So that was
Jericho to narrate it too.
Yeah, he does them all.
I think he's doing the whole season.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, he does the whole thing.
So like last week, Brawl for All was great. That was awesome. This week, I just remembered it's coming out tonight, and I can't wait.
Is it the Snooker one?
It's Snooker.
Yeah, it's Snooky. Yep.
Oh my God.
So are they going to do like a Dino
Cat, you
Bravo
got a lot of
thing?
background noise.
Yeah, they're gonna do the same kind of deep dive. Like they're only doing one episode. It's not like they did with Benoit and they gave him two. But yeah, it's gonna be the same kind of deal where they go over what.
But there's so many different things, like topics that like we said, the Dino Bravo murder or the
Well, Dino Bravo's gonna be either he did an episode or there's going to be an episode this season about it. I'm pretty
I think
sure
they're
that's
going to do something about Owen. I heard. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think Dino Bravo and Owen are two of them that are done and broadcasting for this year. I think
Every episode has been great.
And then the New Jack one was nuts.
Oh, the New Jack one was fucking crazy.
New Jack is
That guy-
out of his mind.
Woo!
He said, "New Jack, I can't feel my legs." He says, "You're not gonna need them." Bye.
I mean, he really legit is nuts.
I have to say, he was pretty awesome in person when I met him, but he was like, so I was like, all right.
Oh yeah, listen, if you're paying him money and taking pictures and autographs, he's gonna be real happy to see you. If you owe him money or he doesn't,
But I'm
like
sure
you,
they
I don't want to be around him.
I would think 50% of that episode must have been the mass transit thing, right?
Yeah, there was a good chunk of it dedicated
Incident.
to that. Because here's the problem. It's not the only incident in New Jack's history. So while they did spend a lot of time
certainly
on
not.
it, they spent a lot of time on him and Vic Grimes and throwing Grimes off the
Oh,
fucking
man.
scaffold.
Jesus, the things they did to each other.
They talked about the mass transit deal and the court case, and then Eric Kulas dying a few years later from a stomach stapling surgery or whatever it was. And then they also did one about Gypsy Joe. He beat the shit out of Gypsy Joe with a baseball bat, an aluminum baseball bat, and then he stabbed a motherfucker
like 7 times.
Yeah,
Something
he's
stupid.
Like, they tried to tell me I stabbed him 16 times. He says, I stabbed him 9 times. I counted. Like, I don't say that shit, dude. You just don't say
That's like when 50 Cent got shot 9 times.
Right, yeah, like 50 knows how many times he got shot, and New Jack knows how many times he stabbed that guy. But whatever it was, like they had to take little chunks, and like they spent the most time on mass transit. But there was just like, okay, this whole break before the commercial is gonna be about the scaffold. The Danbury Fall is what they used to call it when he threw Vic Grimes off the scaffold, because it happened in Danbury, Connecticut.
And didn't they do like the Bruiser Brody one?
They did. Yep, they did a Bruiser Brody one. They've done that. The last year was Macho and Elizabeth and Bruiser and what was it?
Montreal Screwjob.
Screwjob was on there for sure. Yeah. It's just that show. They respect whoever does it. Respects wrestling. They don't treat it like a joke. The only thing they really do is they get those 2 guys riled up, Cornette and Russo. Like they'll intentionally get these guys riled up just to see what they'll say.
Cornette shitting on Russo was like my favorite part of the Brawl for All thing.
But you can even see like the way Jim Cornette takes this so seriously. He's like, wrestling is the most important thing in my life, and he's looking at the camera and you're like, buddy, I know. Like,
yeah, like there's no doubt about that.
It's not your wife. You don't have any kids that I know of. It's not, your fucking family or your health or your money or the house that you live in. It's pro rep. For Jim Cornette, if there wasn't pro wrestling, I don't know. The guy would have been working at fucking Wendy's or something. Who knows? It's literally the most important thing in his life, and is the reason that he's able to live the life.
But he wasn't like the only one that shit on it though either. Like Jim Ross.
Oh no, everybody shit on it. It wasn't a good idea.
Yes, we all did back then.
Yes, a sick part of me loved Brawl for All and wants them to do it again.
You're fucking nuts.
I know, but hear me out. I would only want Matt Riddle, Brock Lesnar, Jack Gallagher, who has MMA fights.
I got
the
you.
one AOP guy that has right. Damian Priest, only the guys with Baron Corbin, only the guys with MMA or boxing backgrounds or kickboxing backgrounds where they fought professionally. I don't want James Ellsworth in there or Otis or whatever like. I want real martial artists in there doing it. It's a terrible idea because Matt Riddle would legitimately, unless Brock got his hands on him first, Matt Riddle could tap out Brock Lesnar, potentially. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want something like that happening. That's why Brawl for All is a bad idea, because it's not scripted. Doesn't follow the
especially
story.
with what we now know of, like,
concussion protocol and the proper.
Well, see, that's the thing.
Fight
Russo only backtracked as an idea because of what he knows now about head injuries.
Right.
But he thought it was a good idea when he did it.
Absolutely. Everybody thought it was a good idea at the time. Well, maybe not.
It ruined not just like Bart Gunn, but Dr. Death.
It ruined everybody. Everybody that was involved. Here's the way to put it. Nobody was elevated. It didn't do good for anyone. Dr. Death was done. Bart Gunn was done.
And everyone got hurt. Like,
everybody
legit
else
hurt.
got injured, and so they couldn't wrestle. Like, though, it was just a shit show.
It was stupid.
Some of those knockouts were brutal.
My favorite was Brackus, freaking Savio Vega told a story about Brackus. Even up to the second before the fight, they're out there. Brackus, who didn't speak English that well, was like, "We fight for real, yes?" And he's like, "Yeah, buddy, this is a real fight." Like, he doesn't know the words to convey to him. Savio's like, "Yes, we are fighting for real." And Brackus is just like, wondering when the fucking kielbasa is going to go on sale or whatever the fuck. Like, Jesus Christ, there's my ramen noodle moment. But you know what I mean? Like, he was just there. He didn't have a grasp of the English language. He didn't know what was going on, the poor fucking guy.
Kielbasa and ramen noodle.
That's right. Well, we talked about the ramen noodle moonsault earlier.
Yeah.
Which, who gives a shit? We should probably pack up, huh?
It's about that time.
It is about that time.
It's about that time. Kids are waiting to eat dinner too. So.
Yes, I'm the same way. I'm about to go eat dinner as well. All right, guys. Well, we're
My
gonna.
club just came.
Nice. Yeah, go get your food. So we're gonna pack up for this evening. We broadcast for 1 hour weekly, Tuesday evenings on Eastern Time, starting at 7 p.m. So once again, if you're not on Eastern Time, just check your clocks. The best way to find out is to actually subscribe to us. Go to youtube.com. In the search bar, you're going to type in "tag me a date." Tag me a date, no spaces. You squish it all together and make one word. You'll see our YouTube channel come up. It just says "tag me a date." You hit subscribe. You hit the bell. The bell will alert you when we go live or upload a new video. If you'd like to follow our other social media, we're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and a bunch of other shit, I'm sure. At Tag Me a Date. That's all of our usernames. If you search for at Tag Me a Date, you can find all of our social media. You can also, that's also the way to find the audio version of this program. If you don't want to watch live on Twitch, or you don't want to watch live on YouTube, 7 p.m. on Eastern Time, you just subscribe to the audio version of the podcast, which comes out a day or two later. You can use Stitcher, Spotify, SoundCloud, Google Podcasts, or Google Play Podcasts, or the Apple Podcast app on your phone. So just search for Tag Me a Date. That's the username. So hit subscribe for that. And the audio version drops 1 or 2 days after our video version. That's going to do it for now. So just be sure to follow us on social media. We'll be back next Tuesday at 7 p.m. for another edition of the War Report, brought to you by tagmeadate.com, the first and only dating site exclusively for fans of professional wrestling. We'll keep you updated on the site redesign. We'll keep you updated on pro wrestling news and updates during this crazy coronavirus time that we live in. And we'll look back on very strangely, because it is a strange decade and strange year we're living in. So, yeah, that's it. We'll see you next week, 7 p.m. on Eastern Time, right here live on Twitch or YouTube. Thank you for watching.